You can learn a lot about an organization developmentally by looking at the strengths of their minor league arms, and it just so happens that two of the better teams at developing players in all of baseball have pretty noticeable differences. The Dodgers really like a particular kind of fastball, the Yankees really like a particular kind of slider. So let's dig through some data and try to speculate on why each team is taking the approach that they are. For both of these organizations, I'm only pulling the top 8 or so arms in terms of data, and while this isn't the entire organization, I do think it kind of gets at some of the broader trends that each of these organizations prefers. So let's start with the Dodgers and this fastball that they particularly like. It's above 94 miles per hour, it has more than 17 inches of induced vertical break, and for the most part, there aren't really too many distinct release characteristics like you would see in an organization such as the Milwaukee Brewers or the Tampa Bay Rays. Bobby Miller's is probably the best of the bunch based on velocity and shape characteristics. Otherwise, it's kind of eerie how similar a lot of their fastballs look. Maddox Bruns, Gavin Stone, River Ryan, Michael Grove, Ryan Pepio, etc. It's a lot of guys who throw four-seamers right around the MLB average fastball velocity despite being younger than the average major leaguer. And it's a lot of guys who get behind the ball really well. The interesting thing to me is that as we jump over to the sliders for these particular Dodger pitchers you just saw the fastballs for, they tend to pair it with a harder, shorter slider than the popular sweeping slider that has kind of been taking over baseball for the last year or so. Most of the sliders here are around 85 miles per hour with somewhere over 5 inches of glove side movement, 5 inches of that sweep. It's a deviation from the sweeping slider that has become so popular across baseball, which is generally a pitch that averages anywhere from 81 to 84 miles per hour and has somewhere over 10 inches of horizontal movement. In fact, there's really only one slider here in this group that's of the sweeper variety, quote unquote, and it's Maddox Bruns. And even with Bruns, it's not really your typical sweeper shape. It's probably a bit shorter in my opinion, maybe in what you'd call a baby sweeper category. This pairing makes sense generally to me too. If we think that the Dodgers prefer a very particular kind of fastball shape, then the natural slider to pair with that fastball shape is something like this baby sweeper, around 85 plus, not a ton of horizontal movement right in that sub 10 window, as opposed to the sweepers, which generally pick up 10 or more inches of that horizontal break. Maybe this is because for that fastball shape, you have to get the behind the ball relatively well. And if you get behind the ball relatively well, it's maybe a little bit harder to get to the front of the ball for the most part and create that topspin that sets the axis of a sweeping slider. It could also be that the Dodgers think that this baby sweeper is just easier to command, and as long as it stays kind of above that 84 mile per hour window, if a guy can just put it in the zone, it will still be able to beat hitters. You could also think of it from a synergy standpoint. Maybe they think that this kind of baby sweeper synergizes with the fastball a little bit better. You could call this maybe a concept like tunneling. Maybe they think this kind of good fastball that we prioritize tunnels better with a baby sweeper than a big sweeper. Now the question is, why is this the template that the Dodgers are following? And I think it comes down to one idea, and that idea is just that they prefer fastball quality and fastball stuff to anything else. Maybe they think that fastball quality is one of the biggest predictors of starting pitcher success at the major league level. And if that's the case, that would line up relatively well with what you hear from a guy like Eno Sarris, who has a really good stuff model of his own. He writes for The Athletic, and he talks a lot about how sticky fastball stuff is year over year, how stable that is, how much that predicts future fastball quality and future performance of a starting pitcher compared to something like command of that fastball or secondary quality or command of those secondaries, which could be something that has more variance year over year. The quality of a pitcher's fastball could just be something that is the most important for their success at the major league level. Now let's hop over to the Yankees, and we're just going to look at their slider shapes because I think that's the thing they excel at the most in value, potentially the highest. There are a pair of names at the top here in Clark Schmidt and Luis Gil who are throwing something that maybe resembles a bit of that Dodger slider, or that baby sweeper, so to speak, which is something, again, like that 85 miles per hour here with around 8 inches horizontal, below that 10-inch threshold of horizontal that we can set. But the rest are what you would categorize, I think, as a true sweeper. They're higher spin efficiency, which means more of the raw spin on the ball, the spin rate, is contributing to the Magnus movement of the pitch, which you can see purely in just the horizontal movement totals. 7 of these sliders are picking up 13 inches or more horizontal movement. All are in the low 80s or so. These are true sweepers. Wisniewski and Waldichuk are no longer in the organization, but given they were in the upper minors of the organization last year, I think it's important to include them on this list because they're prototype sweeper guys. Brock Slevich's sweeper is also kind of classified as a curveball because he throws a different slider, but the sweeper's shape for him was the one that was most successful, so I would bet that this becomes his best breaking ball over time. Am I massaging things to kind of make my point here with the Yankees? Perhaps, but I do think this is a real strength of the organization, and anybody who's watched the team at the major and minor league level, I think, would agree. now let's ask ourselves, why is this the approach the Yankees are taking? And I think this comes down to two things. One, stuff models love this pitch. They love pitches that move a lot horizontally with a little bit of that lift at a relatively high velocity. We could say between that 82 to 85 mile per hour window. And if you're backtracking from the idea of what is the most optimal outcome on an individual pitch level, the answer to that is generally going to be a swing and miss. So if you're backtracking from there, how do you achieve swing and miss? What I think you're going to land on is throwing this pitch as much as possible, throwing this particular kind of sweeping slider as much as possible, because based on historical data, we can see that this induces the most whiffs. Number two here, I think, has to relate to the fact that they've done a really good job at just developing this pitch. I think they have an edge to some extent in their player development circles around how to get pitchers to throw this pitch, potentially throw this pitch in the zone, and make it really effective and hard for hitters to get on top of. Is that a little bit anecdotal? Yeah, but I think we could prove that it's not totally anecdotal by looking at just how much they throw this pitch in the minor leagues. From the DSL and above, they're second in all of MLB in percent of sliders thrown. Only the Mariners have thrown more. So not only are they developing it, they're using it a ton. Now, will this continue? I think that's kind of tough to say, but the pitching infrastructure they have built together has created a bit of an edge on this, I think, developing the pitch. Whether that be because they just have a better understanding of seam effects and seam shifted wake, or whether they just have better coaches who can apply this information. So what does this say about player development generally? In talking to major and minor league coaches about this approach, would you rather have the Dodger approach with a fastball or the Yankee approach with a really good slider? What I got was a lot of non-response, but the key thing that stuck out to me was thinking about the fact that a lot of them said they would prefer a stuff model that they liked, right? A model that predicts pitch success at the major league level based on various characteristics, and then optimizing each individual player in their organization to that player's given strengths. That makes a lot of sense to me, especially because how contextual player development is on an individual level. To make individual changes, you have to consider so many things that it's really hard to paint a broad brush. But I find that really funny because we see two of the better organizations in baseball have particular approaches that I think are kind of deliberate. The Dodgers liking this kind of fastball, the Yankees liking this particular kind of slider. So having never worked in a major league player development organization or a major league organization, my takeaway right now is that the strengths of a major league organization on the development side are built over time. I think for the most part, if you think back to 2020 when the Cubs hired Craig Breslow, it kind of changed their pitching infrastructure. There's a lot of new personnel, a lot of new ideas coming forward. So it makes sense to me that that organization would build the stuff model that they like, kind of go off that stuff model. But then over time, I think what most organizations see is that whether it be personnel, whether it be advantages in data, advantages in biomechanics, whatever their advantages are, their fingerprint, the fingerprint of the organization starts to develop, even if the initial thing they did was just optimized based on a stuff model. And then as you see what your personnel and other strengths of your organization are, develop that really subtle fingerprint. The Dodgers have developed one for just preferring a particular kind of fastball, and maybe they just want to figure out everything else off that fastball. The Yankees maybe have an aptitude for figuring out this particular kind of slider. Maybe they understand seam effects and seam shifted wake better than other organizations. Maybe they just have better coaches that can communicate. I think that's a consistency you'll see among smart organizations. And as a result, you have two really good organizations doing relatively different things, all from the same point of just thinking about a stuff model and going from there and building towards that organization's strengths. Thanks for watching. And as always, comments and which approach you prefer, whether it be the Dodgers or the Yankees, are always appreciated in the comments.